So I'm finally gonna watch this Tinder Swindler documentary on Netflix. So many people have been talking about it. One of my friends in particular, he was the first one who told me about it and asked me if I saw it, but I haven't seen it as yet. And also, I just saw someone post another meme because there's so many memes floating around about it, about how this guy started out and how he ended by the conclusion of the documentary. But also, just now I saw that someone talked about how apparently he tried to swindle one of the Dutch ladies, a Dutch woman, during his time running this scam. And somehow she tried to thrift everything in his closet. And if I wasn't convinced that I was going to watch before, I'm definitely going to watch it now. I feel like Dutch people are just like their own brand of like humor. And I'm so curious to see what she ended up doing to him and like how she got her revenge. As someone who has used dating apps historically, I think I've tried Tinder, Bumble, Happen. I think I signed up for Hinge once, but then I just deleted it because I don't think a lot of people in the Netherlands use it. Dating apps can be a real dumpster fire. There are people who meet like their like life partner, soulmate, whatever you want to call it, on there, and they have been successful. But I think you really have to be strategic when you're on there. You have to go on with a plan. And yeah, a lot of it is probably just also luck and timing. And I can tell you that combination of factors has not really worked in my favor so far. Have I met great people on there? Yes, sure. I've met, some of the best people that I have dated. I say dated in quotation marks because I don't even know what is dating in this 21st century context, especially for like millennial and Gen Z generations. Like the definition of dating is so broad, but basically, yes, you can meet quality people on dating apps, but longevity, that's a bit difficult to manage. I mean, I think because of the number of options that everyone has, because of how busy everyone's life and lifestyle is, it just makes it harder to find something long lasting. And then also, again, going back to the concept of options, it just means that people are not really willing to settle. And it's not that you have to settle, but all relationships or marriages are settling in some form or the other. You will never meet the absolute perfect person, no matter how hard you look or no matter how perfect you are or think you are. So at some point, there will be some moment for compromise, which is totally fine. But I think people are not in that mindset as much as they were maybe in the past, historically, also because people are traveling more, everyone's a bit more international. It's just so easy to meet people. Mind you, I say easy to meet people, not easy to get together and stay with them. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of people are facing nowadays, regardless of gender. It's not easy. But I think because there are people who are so keen to meet someone and settle down and kind of like have a relationship, that what they do is basically, ignore red flags. We've all been there. And maybe be a bit more flexible than they typically would be in another circumstance. So I'm assuming, but I haven't watched yet, so I'm gonna watch the documentary in a few minutes, that maybe a lot of these girls were just kind of looking for someone and they tried to be a bit more open, a bit more flexible, and not too picky. And maybe this guy looked like he checked certain boxes, so they figured, okay, this is weird, but I'll give him a chance. Mind you, this is me being open-minded towards them because at least from what I've seen online, I cannot understand how if someone says, hey, can you lend me 30K? Like, yeah, what? I don't know you. I'm not lending you. You don't even lend 30K to people that you know. First of all, you have to have 30K to lend it out. So I'm like, he really picked some sugar mamas on this show because I don't understand it. But okay, put all of that aside. Let's say it wasn't 30K. Let's say it was 30 euros. And you probably thought you liked this guy and you figured, oh, it's not a big deal and he'll give it back to me. Or he's presenting himself in a particular way, showing like he has some type of wealth or he can afford to, treat you to a certain lifestyle or treat himself to that lifestyle. Then you think, oh, what's 30, 40 euros if I loan it to him? But if he does that enough times to enough people, then at some point, yeah, he just collects the money and doesn't pay back, and then these women end up swindled. But I'm talking about 30 euros. These are small amounts. But when you get to the bigger amounts, that's the part that's not adding up. The math it just doesn't math for me. I'm like, how did you guys end up in this situation? I know maybe it's more possible to end up in a situation where you're dating a guy and he's dating like 5 other women. I don't know from personal experience because thank goodness that has never happened to me. But I can imagine with the numerous amount of options out there, especially on these sorts of apps, it's quite easy to fall into that sort of situation. But to be swindled by someone, I don't know. And not to put like gender roles on people, but I might have more likely believed that if it was like a woman swindling men, just because, I don't know, sometimes in these traditional gender roles, it's very common for a man to want to pay things for a woman, or for a woman to be like kept, however it is that people call these things nowadays. Not really my style, but apparently these things exist. But then to see it the other way around, where this guy is going around finessing these women, I'm like, I guess really this is where we've ended up with this modern like independent woman sort of movement, which is a great thing, to be honest. But then it does mean that, you know, in the attempt to show that you can afford it, you've got it, and that you're a strong independent woman, then you end up getting swindled by a man. How? I'm not going to make any more assumptions. I just need to watch the documentary and really understand what on earth happened. So I will come back after I've seen it and then pretty much give my thoughts, because now this first part of the video is like total speculation. I have no idea what I'm walking into. So let's see.
Private jets, cool cars, amazing parties all over the world. What happened to me felt like a movie. But in the movies, it's always bad guys.
First red flag, our good sis said that she's been on Tinder for 7 years. Like, surely after year 3 on a dating app and you're not really finding success, I think that would be time for you to like log out and rejoin the rest of us in the real world. But okay, let's see what else she says and try not to judge. Second red flag is that our protagonist is obsessed with Disney movies. Why is that a red flag? Okay, we all love Disney movies, but she's kind of obsessed with this idea of like being swept off your feet by some rich, handsome prince who will kind of save you from your mundane life or small village. Okay, fair enough. But at the same time, it's like that mindset is already problematic, because that's what kind of gets you into this sort of naive, okay, a guy presents himself as wealthy, or like he is successful or something like that, and he invites you to meet him at this fancy hotel, then straight away you're thinking, oh yeah, this could be Prince Charming. And she even mentioned, but this is just the first girl, I think the other girls might have different stories, but she even mentions that she really loved the story of Beauty and the Beast because she felt like the two main characters somehow saved each other. So yeah, it's not surprising that she would have fallen into this trap. But it's not just her. I'm not critiquing this girl specifically. I think a lot of us grew up watching Disney movies and kind of ended up with these sort of unrealistic expectations of relationships and this sort of like happily ever after. It can happen, but I think it's not as straightforward. And yeah, the chances of like a billionaire being on a dating app, just meeting regular people, it's pretty slim. Also because, yeah, maybe they do it from time to time just because they want to meet a couple of normal people, but at the same time, in terms of access, the people that they would allow around them, I think they would be more discreet. You wouldn't straight off the bat let people know, like, you know, that you're wealthy and all the things that you're doing, because that's, yeah, dangerous for them, I would assume. I know that she mentioned she Googled him, which, yeah, you can't control if someone looks you up before you meet them on the app or on the date after matching on the app. But at the same time, I feel like people who are genuinely wealthy move a lot more in silence than people who are trying to portray themselves as wealthy. So I think then we have 2 in 1 red flags here. The fact that she's obsessed with the Disney movies and she kind of fell into this sort of Sleeping Beauty, Prince Charming sort of thing, but also the fact that if he was genuinely as wealthy as he said that he was, then he would have been a lot more discreet about it. So yeah, we'll keep watching. Red flag number 4. Argitsa said she just met this man. He invited her for a drink or dinner at the hotel, whatever. He says he's going on a business trip to Bulgaria and invites her to join them because they're going on a private jet. And she says, oh, wow, I've never done something like that before. I would be stupid to say no. No, you would be stupid to say yes because you just met this man, you don't know him. Maybe he's a billionaire. Okay, that's what he says, that's what you saw online, but you know absolutely nothing about him. You're gonna get on a plane with him and a bunch of people that you don't know to a country that you're probably not so familiar with, don't really know your way around, don't really know the laws of, but saying no would be stupid? Okay, debatable. Again, not judging, just waiting. Okay, so at least her friends have some common sense because one of her friends just said, like, who's this guy? Where do you know him from? You could get abducted. And then she responds, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that. And the reason she's going is because she thinks, oh, wow, this sounds like a movie. A Rolls Royce pulled up to pick me up. And I'm like, okay. Still not judging, but kind of questionable where your values are in terms of, you know, what's a top priority in deciding who you're dating, but not just who you're dating, who you're willing to just go off with after meeting them for about an hour, even when your friends point out to you that, like, this is not normal behavior. But okay, still watching, still observing, still processing, no judgments. Red flag number 5. He's bringing his daughter, no problem, but along with his 2-year-old daughter is coming his baby's mother. So basically on this private jet, it will be this girl he's on the date with, him, potentially a bodyguard, and also the child of his mother and the mother of his child. Wow, sorry, I messed that up completely. The mother of his child and the child herself. So it's a bit crowded for a first date, but I mean, maybe I think that's a red flag, but that might be normal for some people. So let's see. Am I basically low-key psychic? Because guess what the second girl says? She's an independent woman. She doesn't need anyone to take care of her. She's always been independent. And that was basically what I guessed before I even started watching. I figured he must have been targeting a certain type of woman in order for them to have access to that level of resources, but also for them to be willing to give it away to a guy that they're dating. So, see, I think as the documentary goes on, more and more of what I said in the first half will probably reveal itself to be true. Even without watching, I think you kind of get a sense already of what type of people these are and like how they might have ended up in that sort of situation, but yeah, keeping an open mind still. So basically, the second girl agreed to be flown out, I'm kidding, even before having a first date with him. They matched, started chatting, and then he invited her to fly from Stockholm to Amsterdam, funny enough, and she agrees. The interviewer then says, oh, okay, so you went. And she's like, yeah, well, it would have been my second guy from the diamond industry. She found out he was in the diamond industry after Googling him. So apparently she has a type. And I think this guy in the documentary, who the whole thing is about, the swindler himself, he has a type as well. I won't say much about it, but if you watch it, you'll see he was targeting a specific type of woman, not just a independent woman or a woman who's doing relatively well for herself, but a woman with a particular look also. But I think it goes both ways. The women who were also attracted to him seemed to have a type as well, but it was more so an attraction to a certain lifestyle, status, and type of resources. So we'll keep watching. I'm low-key exhausted by this show now. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to finish it. So basically they're back to talking about the first girl, and somehow she goes from dating this guy from long distance because he's traveling so much, and only having maybe like 1 or 2 dates with him, to now moving in with him. And he tells her, oh, pick a place, an apartment, and the budget is $15,000 per month. And she's like, oh, okay, that's great. I can't wait to live with you. And then she puts an offer on the apartment. Then somewhere along the way, he messages her with a photo and says that they've been attacked and that they are in danger and he can't use his credit cards because it's traceable. Basically that he needs money, and asks her if she has an American Express card and if she can link it to his, or like take out another card and give him access. So she does that, which is wild to me. Anyway, he maxed out the card and then sent her like some sort of proof that he made a payment, but that in the meantime, he needs $25,000 in cash. This lady goes, takes out a loan. So I thought these were sugar mamas, but they are not. They are regular people taking loans, maxing out their cards to match this guy's energy when he is a total fraud. So she takes a loan and she takes the money in cash and flies to Amsterdam with, I don't know if she managed the full 25K, but thousands of dollars in her bag, worrying that she might get stopped, especially going through the security check. And I'm like, why are you putting yourself through all of this? She's saying on the thing that, oh, well, they're a couple, they're boyfriend, girlfriend, and they trust each other. And if one of them asks the other for something, then they should be able to back that person up and support them. Fair enough. But someone that you've known for like, what, a couple weeks, max a month, is asking you for $25,000 in cash and your credit cards. And she even texted him to ask him like, hey, why do we need cash? And he said it's untraceable. Like, that is red flag number 6, right? Yeah, like, I don't know what to say about these ladies. I was trying to be optimistic, open-minded, not judgmental, but this would not happen to the average person, because the average person who's at least a little bit street smart would be thinking, this is a bit suspicious. Also, yeah, I think it's the lure of like the lifestyle and the wealth, or the picture of wealth that he painted for them, that really like got them going off the deep end for him, because this makes no sense whatsoever. You don't have 30K in your bank account. You're gonna take out a loan to give money to a guy you just met? Like, it's not adding up for me. So I will try to see how much more of it I can finish, but at this point it's kind of painful because the stupidity is a bit blatant and I just cannot believe it. I thought that, yeah, maybe there was more to the story, but it's really just this guy scamming these women who are like low-key desperate. No offense to desperation, but it just doesn't make sense. I wonder if they sit and watch the documentary and think back to themselves like, you know, where are the points that were red flags that they should have seen but that they somehow missed. Yeah, it's just not making sense to me. But let's see how much more I can finish. I'm really getting to the end of my rope though, because I'm just a bit like, this is so, it's like an action film. It's like the Tinder Swindler could have been Bruce Willis or Brad Pitt or something, starring, let me see, who are some popular actresses, Kate Beckinsale, or who else is pretty popular right now? Why is my mind going blank when I'm trying to think of a famous actress? Maybe even Julia Roberts, because she's like my favorite actress. Anyway, they could have been starring in this, because this just does not feel real by any stretch of the imagination. But maybe that's why the scam worked, because this guy created this whole world of like wealth and this big illusion, and the woman fell straight into that trap. So you're looking at it as an outsider thinking, this can't be real. Like, there's no way that would happen in real life, but apparently it did. And it seems like a lot of, it's not just women, a lot of people in general, because I think this could happen to men as well, are kind of just sitting there waiting for some big windfall or somebody to come into their lives and sweep them off their feet. And that's why they're probably not as discerning as they should be when, you know, someone like this crosses their path. It's like, oh, you're looking for a come up? Oh, you're looking for, you know, an early retirement package? Then yeah, if it knocks on your door, then you might ignore the red flags just in favor of having an easy way out, and then convincing yourself that you like this person so much and you care for them, and that the feelings are so strong, because that's all these women kept saying. Meanwhile, you barely know them. One woman, the second one, she said, oh, we talked for an hour and after it felt like we knew each other for 10 years. 10 years? How do you know someone for 10 years after talking to them for an hour? Like, what could they have possibly said to give you that impression? Like, I know sometimes you meet people, you think, oh, I feel like I've known you before, I've known you for a long time, but I think in those sorts of contexts, especially, when things are just not adding up, and these women seem to be quite clever, I just don't understand. But I guess even the most clever person can be a fool for love, as they say. So let's see how it goes and how it ends, because I'm really ready to stop watching, but I'm gonna hang in there for a bit longer. Okay, I've had a slight change of heart. I'm not gonna blame the victims, because they also explicitly say not to do that in the documentary. I don't think I ever really blamed them throughout the video, but I really was concerned about what it was in their mindset that would cause them to fall prey to a scam of this nature. But I think what has opened my mind a bit on the topic is the fact that as the reporters or the journalists did more investigating, they came across more and more victims. And it's not just people who he dated, it was also people he worked for, babysat for, people that he hired who worked with him. So I think he was like an equal opportunity con man. Nevertheless, don't love the documentary. The first part of it is really intense. I think what would have made this more interesting is if they shared more stories of the other people who got conned, not necessarily through Tinder, but sorry, my phone is sliding down, but just through all the different scams that he's run throughout his life. It seems like he's been a con man since he was like 20 years old, which is crazy to me. And also, if I put it into context, so the documentary follows the stories of two women in particular. I realize in hindsight now that the second woman was not someone he was romantically involved with. It was more of a friend. Still wasn't wise of her to lend him $40,000, but I could kind of see how she might have ended up in that situation more so if she thought they were friends and a friend needed help, as opposed to the first girl who I just cannot relate to or don't understand at all. But just because I can't relate to her, don't understand her, doesn't mean that I don't sympathize with her. They're quite fortunate that this story was able to blow up in the way that it did, and that it got all the media attention, and that now they can also save, other victims from being scammed by him. But yeah, I don't know what to say. It's quite shocking, especially the fact that he's been running scams for like years. So this guy, like, even if this wasn't a documentary, they could make a movie about him. Like, he is really something else. I think we're finally towards the end of the documentary now, and they're about to show the part with whom I think is the Dutch girl. And she looks like she is ready to tussle. So I'm really looking forward to hearing her part and seeing what she says. So I'm almost there. I am going to finish it. I didn't give up halfway, which I'm glad that I didn't, because now everything is in more context and I get a better sense of how something like this could have happened. Still a little bit disconnected from the first girl, as I said, because I don't fully get it. But let's see. Wait, I think the girl that I'm seeing now is from Prague? No, or she's in Prague, and then she says she sees her boyfriend, and she sees him online and realizes that it's this guy and that he's a scammer. But I'm trying to figure out if this girl is Dutch or not, but I will check and then I will come back. So by the end of the documentary, I realized how much of a roller coaster this whole thing was. A lot of plot twists. I think the girl that I found most interesting was obviously the one that they ended with. They didn't give so much of her original story, at least in terms of how they met and their relationship, how it evolved essentially. She did talk about them meeting at a hotel the first time, some expensive place. I can't remember if he flew her out or not, but her story is a bit different because she was in a relationship with him for like 14 months, which is quite long term compared to the other girls. So I guess she was like his main girlfriend, and the others were just, yeah, rotating group of people he was scamming. So this girl was really brave. I really think she should work for the FBI, because at the end of the day, when she discovered what he was doing, that he was a scammer, and this is the Dutch girl that I was talking about previously. Apparently, she is definitely Dutch. The link to Prague was that she was in Prague when she found out that this guy, who she thought was her boyfriend for the last 14 months, was a scammer, and not only scamming other people, but he also took about 140,000 from her, which is wild. But she had a plan. At first she was angry, but then after that she was like, you know what? She's gonna get even. She's gonna get her money back. So she booked a ticket to go to Prague, where he was, under the pretense that she was gonna help him, and that because he needed money and he was begging her for money, that she was going to help him sell his clothing because he had really expensive designer stuff. And then once they got that money back, use it for him to buy a new identity, get a ticket, whatever he needed to do. I think he was even considering getting plastic surgery to change how he looked. So she goes there, collects all the clothing, and then comes back to Amsterdam with it, and then sells everything and doesn't give him any of it back. He flips out, and over the course of, I don't know how many weeks that lasted, just going back and forth, yelling at her, sending her aggressive texts and voice notes. And she's just like, of course she's, bothered about it, but she just is like, okay, well, do what you have to do. And she realized that he had mentioned a couple weeks back that he wanted to go to Greece, and he was asking her to get a ticket for him, but she said no. And then suddenly he goes offline, and he's normally always online, according to her. So she realized, because there was only one check on his WhatsApp message, it must be the case that he is flying somewhere. So she contacts the authorities, I guess in the Netherlands, and notifies them that, yeah, he is probably on a plane, and she knows where he's going. And given the time he went offline, she knows which flight he might be on, because she also looked into flights going from Prague to Greece, to like narrow down the window, and he got arrested. It's impressive, like really her investigation skills, and also just she's just clever. Like, she is the only one of all the people that we've like seen through the documentary, and even apparently he scammed $10 million from like a variety of people over I don't know how long of a period. It seems she's the only one who managed to like con him back and like get some revenge, which obviously is also not ideal, but I think it's probably the best she could have done, especially because by the end of the documentary it's explained that he only spent 5 months in jail, even though he was originally sentenced to 15, and he's back out, he's making money again, he has a new girlfriend, and he's probably running a new scam. So I don't know what to think. It was a plot twist for sure. The ending turned out really different than I expected. I thought it was just going to be this guy who's going around scamming women, which is what he did, because after victims kept coming out one after the other, that's pretty much his main business or trick. But he also was scamming all these other people. And I realized, like, yeah, it was kind of like a movie. So it was a documentary, but it was just so many twists and turns. And I would not have expected it to turn out the way that it did. But kudos to that, Dutch woman who really is the one who brought him to justice. Even though that justice was short-lived, at least she was able to help get some sort of justice for herself and all the people that he had scammed throughout the years.